Path of the Worthy, coming at you live. Path of the Worthy, gonna paint some eyes on some miniatures, and they're gonna look really good with the sclera and the pupil and the iris and the reflection and a counter reflection and some veins, because that's how, well, you don't have to do all that to win the Worthy, but it helps. Mini extravaganza continues. We're on a tear. It's exciting.
Yeah, we're back again together.
Back again. We're always together, Tony.
That's right.
We never leave each other's side. Never. We're going to be talking about the Worthy for the next hour or so here. And we're going to talk about like kind of what the Worthy is.
Right.
The rewards for the Worthy.
Right.
The philosophy of the Worthy. And then we're going to go over some of the entrants and stuff from Adepticon 2023's Worthy first outing of the Worthy.
Right.
So I'm super excited because also this means, and we got a link to the gallery of those entries going up in the chat now, so you can go check out all the wonderful entries. Super cool on our new website. # new website.
Well, technically not the new website, but it is up.
Okay, so I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'd rather like very quickly transition to something I do know what I'm talking about, the Path of the Worthy. Because I know about that. Actual Tony, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm here. Hello, hi.
Have you ever been in front of the camera?
I don't.
Ooh.
Not intentionally.
How you feeling
Maybe
about
in the
this one?
background glimpses. It's very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes,
Behind
Tony.
the scenes, that's my safe space. I like it.
You pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. All right, so let's go through the Worthy. So how do I know what we're looking at here? Who do I point at?
Well, you're telling us where to go, and then.
Okay, let's go to the first. Let's go. So the Worthy is a miniature painting competition, and the whole philosophy and goal of it is to allow painters to become the best painters they can be, to become the painters they want to be. And that could be just a tabletop painter. That could be a studio painter.
Mm-hmm.
That could be like the world's greatest painter that anyone has ever seen ever and will ever see. That's a pretty big goal, but that might be your goal. So we want to create a format. We want to create an outlet for individuals to come test their skills and get feedback. And that's the major part, is the feedback aspect and the personal growth part. There is a big trophy you're going to win, but the very first step is the patch. Just for entering, you get a patch that says heroic, because it takes something heroic, right? It takes something bold for you to be able to step up to the plate and put your name in that hat, right?
Just for bringing us a miniature.
Just for bringing us that's a very heroic move, right? I didn't want to compete for a long time.
It's hard. It's a tough thing to do.
I was terrified. I didn't want to do it. So, you go through the whole artist, like, well, I'm not good enough, right? Like, why am I doing this? Should I really? You've never
experienced that. Never once.
That's not true. So we want to reward people just based on that. And then the function is, after you enter, we are going to look at each category. We have 3 different categories. Do you know the categories?
I do. Chosen.
No, categories.
No, categories. Solo, duel, and squad.
Squad. He practiced the awards, so that's why I knew I'd catch him off guard. So solo, duel, squad. Solo is an individual character. On a duel is, it says duel as in 2, because I don't want to give the impression they have to be fighting.
Right.
Right. I think it would be interesting to have like Cap and Bucky back to back. Right.
Interacting. Somehow.
Yeah, and just 2 miniatures on base, and then squad is your 3 to 5 characters. To show, actually, I think is the hardest category, because you have to show an extreme level of aptitude on more things, right? It's 1 miniature is a lot of work. 5 is
it's got to be
whole
way
lot of
more
work.
consistent.
Way more consistency is a big thing. We're going to talk about consistency a lot. The consistency of, if you look at the rules for the Worthy, it talks about consistency and even distribution of philosophy across the piece. And that's a very kind of artsy kind of philosophy, right? Like, I could argue that by making the dumpster on my base less punchy, I'm creating contrast, and I would argue you can still leave it on the back of the base, but still give it the same level of attention. And there's a level of attention that has to be demonstrated across the entire piece, because I do look at the entire piece, not just the miniature. If you hand me a plinth, I'm looking at the plinth, right? The construction of the plinth. I'm looking at the construction of the basing materials. I'm looking at how you paint the miniature. I'm looking at how you converted the miniature. I'm looking at the grass tufts you added to the miniature. Like, it's all, you handed me an art piece, and it all has to be at the same level. And I think that's a very important lesson, right? So, what are we talking about?
We were talking about the different categories.
Different categories. Dual, single. Okay. And then when you enter that, you for a little while, you're kind of just being judged against yourself, right? You're being tested against where you were last. So the very first thing that you could win is a medal, which we have beautiful pictures of. We have bronze, silver, and gold. And this is where you shouldn't be looking at, Tony got a gold and I got a bronze. You're not really competing with Tony. You're competing with yourself, because maybe last year you got a bronze and then this year you got a bronze. Well, why did you get bronze 2 years in a row, right? You want to, if you didn't, why did you not progress?
Right.
And that's the more important question, not what did Tony do, what did I do? Because your path is different.
Now, why is it important that, if I get bronze 2 years in a row, how do I know that I just didn't get beat out by other people?
Because there's an unlimited number of bronzes.
Oh, how's that possible?
We have a bucket of them. Let me tell you, we have a crate of bronzes. Yeah, there's no limit to the number of bronzes. This isn't a first, second, and third place. This is every single person that enters and who earns a bronze will get a bronze. Every single person that enters who deserves a silver will get a silver, and everybody who deserves a gold will get a gold. So you're not really competing with one another at that stage in the judging process. You're competing with what you've done. It gives you a watermark to, if you got, let's say we get 500 entries in just one category, right? That's a lot of entries. That will take me days to judge. Let's say you get 500 entries and we only have one bronze, one gold, one silver, right? Well, you don't know where 497 of you stand, right? But if I can give everybody a bronze that earned a bronze and everybody silver and gold, et cetera, you now have a watermark, right, to know where you stand. You have a place of growth. You have a very, I wouldn't even say distinct, because it's art, so there's subjectiveness to it. But you have this place where you know where you got to go next. Right? If it's just 1, 2, and 3, you have no idea where you stand. You could have been number 4.
And because it's unlimited, you don't have to worry about the other competitor's skill level, right?
No.
It's all just you. If you're getting a silver, that's because you are at silver level.
You are at a silver level. And I want to give you, and then that's why the big thing about the worthy is the feedback option that we give. At the end of the competition on Sunday, we allowed everybody. I know there was a couple of people that missed it. Seeker is in here and missed their feedback. We give a feedback option where you can come up to a judge and you can be like, well, I really thought I was going to get a silver, but I got a bronze. Can you explain? And I can explain it. And we even in our heads, there's even discussions of sometimes it's a high bronze and a low silver, right? It's there. You can ride a cusp. I rode a cusp several times in my painting career, right? It could have been a gold, but these are the reasons it was a silver, right? And usually with those feedbacks, I always like to start out with, you You want the nice feedback or the hard feedback?
Always get the hard feedback.
Always get the hard
If
feedback.
you want to get better, get the hard feedback.
The nice feedback will get you nowhere. But I want to give the people the why, right? This is what, when you handed me your piece, this is what I saw. This is the emotions I felt. These are the technical aspects that I saw you demonstrate. These are the technical aspects that I thought you just didn't demonstrate, right? And that you need to push. These are the things like, holy moly, like those shoulders were like impeccable, right? But why did you not treat the thigh the same, right? You obviously have the skill. Why did you not apply it here, right? And that's when you get into like, well, maybe somebody wants to be like, well, I made an artistic choice. And I'm like, well, it's art and that's fine. But I really think you could have applied your skill a little more evenly. So that's what we really want. We really want to give everybody the coin they deserve, the level they deserve. And it's not really until the next. Did we talk enough about the philosophy? Did that feel good?
I think it felt right. Yeah, I covered it. I did want to cover, though, I would throw back like getting an entry in and getting feedback from the judges. And you said this before already, but I stress it, that is one of the biggest benefits of entering the competition, is talking to the judges afterward and finding out what it was. It's also really great to hang around when that's happening and, be able to kind of pick up and talk to other people and what their feedback was and just expand everything you can learn about painting.
Oh yeah, like being able to sit down with another painter goes a long way, right? Getting in your own echo chamber, if you're not getting out and getting feedback, we live in the world of the internet. It's you can get a lot of good internet feedback. I think pictures are not super great, and when we're gonna go through a couple entries, and we're gonna talk about a little bit about why pictures can't do everything that being there, but like being there with another artist and jamming on ideas and like being like, oh, I didn't think of that. And you're like, well, that was obvious to me. It's like, well, it wasn't obvious to me. Thank you very much. Like, or, oh, I see what you're saying. I'm not going to do that, but that's leading me to another path, right? Learning how to take criticism, learning how to receive criticism, learning how to interpret criticism. Never take criticism from somebody you want to take advice from. It's the best piece of advice I got. You might not take that.
I'm not going to take it.
You wouldn't. So it's and painting for the camera. This Psych Seeker says painting for the camera is very different. You're painting when if I'm painting for we talk about the destiny of the miniature.
Right.
The destiny of the miniature. And this goes back to your place on the path. You might want to be just a tabletop miniature painter. That's great. You might want to be a studio painter. You might want to be, a fancy Twitch streamer painter that does stuff like that. You might want to be a competition painter. There's all these different layers and levels that you can be. And so choosing the destiny of the miniature, when I paint for the box, my thought philosophy is totally different than when I'm painting for a competition. Because when I'm painting for the box, I'm painting for that one angle that when you walk into a game store and you see that character on that box, that is the angle that says, holy cow, that's Scarlet Witch.
Right.
Or holy cow, that's Cable, right? Like when I'm painting for a competition, I personally want to go, hey, hello, you walking by the case, do you see me? Come closer. Right? And then you come closer and then you want to pick it up.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to let you pick up my miniature. But I want you to want to. Is that rude?
I don't think so.
I want you to, like, the miniature, I would let you pick it up. The miniature should invite you, for me, that's my goal, is invite you to pick it up and spin it around and take a look at it from all the different beautiful angles.
Right.
We have this joy of working in a 3-dimensional space. As a miniature, I'm talking a lot. I apologize.
No, that's all right. You're good.
We work in a 3-dimensional space with miniatures, and I personally find it very fascinating to remember that from a painting philosophy. Is, you know, there's not just the cool front side to Captain America that you see on the box. There's a back side.
Right.
And let me tell you, those sculptors do just as much work on the back that they do on the front, right? Because you're going to pick it up, you're going to turn around, you're going to look at it. When you paint it, you got to spend 2 hours painting a lumbar. Right. So I love inviting people to look at the miniature and remember that it's 3-dimensional. So what else? I didn't write a thing for this.
We're just going for it.
We're winging it.
Yeah.
Let's do so all the golds. Once you get a gold and you get feedback for a gold, your next step that you can take is winning the category. So everybody who in single miniature will get a gold that deserves a gold. Everybody in dual who deserves a gold will get a gold. And everybody in group who deserves a gold will get a gold. And then from those categories, we're going to put all the singles together, and that's when we're going to look at all the golds and be like, okay, well, who got the number 1 gold? And that person will get this wonderful hammer. Holy cow, the thing I want and I can never own.
That's a sick trophy.
It's a really sick trophy. I'm so jealous of it. Gotta be real honest. So at that point, when you're able to paint to a gold level, that is when it's time to start looking at, you know, who's getting the hammer. And only one person from each category, so 3 hammers, will get given out or not. I will not hand out a hammer if no one deserves it. Fun fact. But if out of the golds, that's where we start looking at. So if you're not quite a gold yet, you're really only competing with yourself, what you did last year or last time, and trying to improve to the level you want to improve. And then we're going to give away this hammer. Then out of the 3 people that get the hammer, one of those is going to be the big fajita.
Is that what we're calling it?
What is it called?
The worthy?
Well, I know it's the worthy. what's it like?
Odin?
No, like what?
Kahuna?
The big kahuna. Why did I say fajita?
Lebowski?
I wasn't sure where you were going.
Hang on, I need some water. I'm dehydrated. Oof. One of the golds, or one of the Mjolnirs, will get Odin. This trophy, this picture does literally nothing for this trophy.
Just the base like that?
It's
right?
about a foot by foot square. This thing weighs 20 pounds. I don't know. It comes in one of the most gorgeous boxes I've ever seen. Matte black. It's got a foam insert. He slides right in there perfect. Have you ever pulled one out?
No,
it's like perfect.
Not out of the case. I held the trophy, but never.
Oh, in that box? Oh, it's like you ever watch those videos online where the 2 pieces of metal slide together and you can't see the seam?
Is that what it's like?
Ann, come on, Ann. You're in that age group. You know what I'm talking about. Or the cutting the sand videos. That's like perfect. Like that's what sliding him into his box is like. I'm just telling you. Yeah, that thing is insane in person. Like just a gorgeous trophy. One person gets this trophy. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it's really about the celebration of the miniature and the form of miniature art, right? And it's important, right? We make a miniatures hobby game. When you choose to participate in a miniatures hobby game, there's a aspect to it. The hobby.
That's the fun part.
The fun part. It's the part that makes it unique, right? So you're painting your miniature, and you spend so much time painting your miniature. I spend way more time painting my miniatures.
Too much time for me.
Than playing the game, right? Like even if you only spend an hour per miniature, you got to paint 10 miniatures for a roster. That's 10 hours. Well, a game is only an hour and a half, right? So you're already doing like 10 times the work. So we spend so much time, and the art of miniature has just changed so much in the past 20 some years. It's an absolutely fascinating aspect, and there's so many beautiful painters out there doing beautiful, beautiful work. We get the joy of working with some of them ourselves: Elizabeth Beckley, Aaron Lovejoy, of course, Brendan Roy, Oscar. Oh gosh, do it! Look at this. I want to do the yeah. I get to hold it. Oh, look, it even says Marvel Crisis Protocol on the bottom. Path of the Worthy. Just a beautiful trophy. So thank you, Simone Elliott.
Bye.
I'm going to set this right here, and I'm going to rest my arms upon it, like so. What were we talking about? 'Cause now I'm blacked out.
I don't know.
I remember cutting sand. What was after that?
I don't remember.
Miniatures. Oh, the art of miniatures. That's where we're at. So the art of miniatures, right? Like, there's all this beautiful art being created at miniature, and we want to celebrate that, and we want to celebrate your path with you, right? I'm going to re-emphasize that so many times,
Right.
because I think that's like, to me, is like the heart and the core of the Worthy, is like Tony's painting journey. Tony might come up every year at Adepticon and be like, Dallas, I just want to be a fast, good tabletop miniature painter. And every year Tony either, sometimes he gets a bronze and sometimes he doesn't, right? But it's not about the bronze for him, right? It's about getting that feedback and getting to the point he wants to get, right? And so being like, all right, Tony, so what you want to do is you want a dark line here, and think about your color to make that red pop, right? So what are you going to use to make that red pop? You can use blue, you can use green, right? You can use not black, it looks terrible, but that's just philosophy. So how, like, Tony, you gotta learn to control your brush strokes, right? That's the big thing, right? Brush control is king. Like, use brush control. Step one, if you're asking me for feedback, first thing you should ask, do I need more brush control? Second thing, do I understand how much contrast there is?
Right. Oh, contrast.
There's never enough contrast. The 3 rules of miniature painting, followed by faces and bases.
Yeah.
Give me a good face and a snappy base.
Look at your miniature. Say, this isn't working for me. What's wrong with it? First question, do I have enough contrast? Where can I put more contrast in it?
And contrast isn't just light to dark. Contrast can be like 3 different browns all together, making one warm, one cold, and one neutral. Mm-hmm. That's contrast. Making one smooth, one sketchy. That's contrast, right? So textural contrast, heat contrast, value contrast, color contrast. Like, there's so many. There's different contrasts, and learning how to utilize them all is a very key element. Yes, Simone Elliott just ran in here with an Odin. Just came in like a streak of lightning, a shot from the heavens of Odinville with an Odin. Odinville. That's where he lives.
Renamed recently, just now.
Wow.
Anna's like, what is happening? What is happening? What? I need to know more brush control. What can I do to increase brush control? Anchor. Okay, boy. What time does this go to what time? 6:30?
6:30.
Okay, so we got like 35 minutes. Okay. We're gonna talk about what's the word? Ergonomics. Keep your back straight. Do not slunch. This is classic painter stuff. This is no good. You gotta have your back straight. Keeps your diaphragm open, lets you breathe. If you're crunched up and you can't breathe, your body goes into stress mode, right? If you're stressed, can't paint. Your body can't focus. Keep your back straight. Our elbows on a table, wrists together. I like to lay like this, paint. Don't hold your breath. what happens when you hold your breath? You're not breathing. What happens when you don't breathe? Your body goes into stress.
I learned that from you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was always holding my breath, trying to get that steady
breathe.
line.
Slow and steady. And then breathe in, breathe out to take that shot on the eye, right? Like when you're going in for that fine detail, you want to breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. You know.
I do now.
All right, let's go through some of the, I think we've done philosophy. Let's go through some of the entries we got. The first one we got is in the duel. We got Kevin Witt. I thought that this piece was super fun. Especially if you follow along, I did a mock entry, Spider-Man Green Goblin. So it was actually kind of fun seeing another Spider-Man and Green Goblin actually using the same Spider-Man. But it's telling a different story, right? It's a little different story. There's some interesting color choices. The composition is cool. Like they're around the corner. You got the Daily Bugle sign falling, and you know it's got like this visual punch when you first walk up to it, right? And I love that kind of stuff. I love when you walk up and you get that visual punch.
When something stands out at you in the case.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get into that really, really deep. So it's I really like this for those reasons. There's a fun story, there's a visual punch, and stuff like that. Let's do the next one, which is it Jonathan's?
Oh, we have.
What's the next one? No. Should be Kyle Dalton's Duel. There we go. Kyle Dalton's Duel. Once again, like, this is one of those ones that's very interesting, that it tells a cool story, and he am I messing up my thing?
Just a beard thing.
Am I? I'll set up. Pale King is here. Kyle Dalton. The painter chose to have a more direct front shot to the composition, sort of limiting the viewing angle, but this viewing angle just tells such a bold, striking story. Such a good job on those letters on the base, and Cap and Iron Man are just so punchy. The cars are super punchy, and even though that the background is like sort of pushed back and a little desaturated, it still reads and still had the same care given to it.
Right.
And I think that's very important. When you're up in the golds, like the care on the hubcap has to be the same as the care on Captain America's face.
Right.
Right. You can't fake it. There's artistic ways to make it look sloppy, but you can still tell that it's sloppy and not the care. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
yeah, well, it's nothing can be an afterthought. You don't always have to know exactly how things are going to turn out and have everything planned nice and tight in advance. But it can't just be like, I'm going to do all the great work right here and then whatever on this, right?
Wishy-washy kind of. But there are technical ways to like let a background fade into the background while maintaining technical acuity. So I really like this piece. It was very fun to see this in real life. Thought Kyle did a really good job. Next one was, are these did we skip this one?
We might have ours out of order, actually.
Okay, what order? You tell me what's next.
Tell us what's next.
Jeremy Lorimer.
Jeremy Lorimer. There we go. Okay, so once again, like immediately, especially on this black background, man, those Sentinels just scream.
They're coming for you.
Just scream out. I really like the way that little subtle, Tony, you pointed this out the other day, that subtle red glow. It's not over
Right.
dramatic, but it's there in the palm of that Sentinel's hand. And choosing to go with like that really dark red brings like a level of menace to the miniature. Cassandra Nova looking super dope. He added some interesting elements to the base, put a little OSL on Cassandra's jacket and stuff. I really like the concrete work on this too. So I thought this was a really fun entry that told a story. There's a wrecked car in the back. The concrete's all messed up. The mailbox is still standing though. Like, that mailbox is going nowhere. Well, maybe that's what he's going to blast. I don't know. I'm trying to remember holding this in my hand too. I feel like the line work, like was very tight as well. The transitional lines and the blending and stuff. So very cool story. Which one's next, Ann? Where ours is out of order, we think.
You good?
Tyson. Tyson's squad entry. This is very cool. This is his custom built display board for his tournaments. And he has some custom bases that tell the story, tie it all together. He's got that magenta, which I'm a sucker for, down in the crevices of this black onyx, right? And some of the black onyx is cracked. He's got, the paint job on Thanos was super cool by himself. And you can see in this picture how much he just stands out from the background. I think that's a very important thing is making sure your characters stand out. Once again, like what Kyle did with the rendering those miniatures to where they're part of the background, but they stand out from the background, but the background is not an afterthought. It's a balancing act of art, right? So I think that this, and I love the little custom beam that he sculpted for MODOK.
For MODOK's head.
Just up there, just being a total, just badass, just blasting some fool with his psychic mind beam. Who's next?
We got David Dimestone.
David Dimestone. Yeah, this Iron Man was very, very cool. This is one I actually like. I like the front shot of this more than this 3/4 shot. I remember looking at this and seeing how he went from this plinth and turned it into broken concrete with the chest of Hulkbuster integrated. So it told his story, and you can see he's using like these blue shades in the concrete, which is going to contrast to the red of Iron Man, which is going to push him out. But once again, it's not leaving that backdrop as an afterthought, right? He's thinking very much about how that backdrop emphasizes the character piece, right, and pushes it forward, but without losing it. So this was pretty cool to see. And it once again, the way he posed the angle, I feel like he thought a lot about the angle of Iron Man. It made you want to turn Iron Man around, right?
Well, and even stuff like, here on the left, you get a little bit of that blue kick you were talking about. And from a full frontal view, that's not a side of the rock you're going to really get. So you're only going to see that as you're kind of turning it back and forth and looking at it in 360.
Yeah, like rewarding the viewer, I guess is kind of a way to put it, right? Like something you don't notice, and then you turn and you're like, look at that. What a cool thing. Who's next? Jason Colbeck. Once again, this miniature just even though it has a backdrop, a lot of times when artists chooses to use a backdrop, they sort of force the viewing angle, because I mean, obviously you've cut off the entire back. Right. You've cut off the entire back quadrant. This is an interesting piece. You have this backdrop, but you have all this other stuff happening that wants you to like look at it from 45 degrees, maybe 60 degrees from the front.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of want to move back and forth across it. And I thought that was really neat.
Yeah.
You can't really tell. We were talking about this the other day. This little plume of smoke is sculpted and exploding from the backdrop. It's a neat trick.
Well, this is a good example of not being able to see it from only being able to see it from one angle. Getting the angle of Juggernaut blasting through there, and even though you can see all these 3D effects, they're not reading like they would if you were able to hold it in your hand and look around.
Oh yeah, these things totally look totally crazy different in person or in your hand. The way that bright blue backdrop cuts a hard line to black, and then you get this immediate frame of the Juggernaut, and you absolutely recognize that silhouette of the Juggernaut like blasting through. I think is really thinking about what the miniature is doing and what the backdrop is doing.
Right.
Next.
All right. Jason Gibbo.
Yeah, okay, so there was two pieces that when you walked into the hall and you looked at the case, they just immediately grabbed your attention, and made you want to walk to the case. And this one was one of them. That yellow and ochre backdrop with that silhouette of Tony Stark, just red from 30 feet, right? Like we like when you first walked into the Adepticon hall,
Right.
the cases were probably about 30 feet from the door.
Yeah, it was one of the first things you were going to see.
Yeah, we were first in the door, and the cases were about 30 feet from it, and you could just see this thing in the case. And that is one of those things that I really find fascinating, when a miniature painter can make me go, whoa, what's in the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to see that, right? And just that immediate, sharp, gotcha, right? It's like a fishing lure. It's spinning its little metallic tail. It's iridescent. It's flicking in the water. And I'm like, I want to go see what that's going on. I want to see what's happening over there. And I really like this story. Once again, pictures can't do things justice. Like this piece of I-beam on the left sort of has a weird tangent with the backdrop and the edge, but that doesn't read like that when you're actually holding
Right.
the miniature. So like in the picture, you're like, oh, what a weird tangent, but it doesn't read like that when it's in your hand. So yeah, I really appreciated like that, just being able to like make me want to go and see what's happening in that case. Very strong compositional.
Jonathan Ho.
Let's do it. So, Jonathan Ho's duel was such a treat to see in real life and be able to hold it in my hand. I did not want to put this down. Once again, Spider-Man versus Doc Ock. This is the third duel in the case using the same Spider-Man, and yet another totally different story was being told. So the interesting thing about this is just the composition of this alone. I don't even have to like think about the painting for so long on this, because just the composition alone made this such an interesting thing to look at. It goes back to that discussion we were having earlier, right? We work in miniatures are a three-dimensional thing, and when you're painting a miniature, it's a three-dimensional object. You're spinning it around, you're turning it upside down, you're really looking at it from every single angle. And what Jonathan did was just threw the backdrop out, just totally threw the backdrop out, which is very in vogue to do painted backdrops. Did this crazy cattywampus wall panel.
It's a very weird angle.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like a weird angle that I don't think I would have thought of. And then Spider-Man is on a weird angle, and then Doc Ock is on a real angle. Now, of course, he had to like custom build out of wire and plastic tubing those Doc Ock tentacles to pull off this. He made some spider webs, but this really celebrated a three-dimensional art form in a full three-dimensional way. Right. Once again, this picture does not do this piece justice. Doc Ock is kind of got his back, shoulder to you. This piece wanted to be viewed three different directions, right? And yeah, like if you think about where the actual angles are in real life, like this thing is like crazy, right? Like if you move that plinth in 3D space to the plane that window should exist on.
Yeah.
These guys are like
they're just way out here.
They're doing crazy stuff in three-dimensional space. So yeah, that's what I really loved about this one, is just the pure celebration of three-dimensionality, the invitation to the viewer to move in 3 dimensions and to explore the miniatures in all those 3 dimensions. I thought it was very cool. And of course, Jonathan won all 3 categories.
Yeah, so we got a gold in solo, duel, and squad.
And then beat out his competition of golds.
Right.
In those. And this is the piece that won him the worthy. This is the piece that got him the trophy, right. the Odin. A clean sweep is rare. It's rare, but not unheard of.
What was going through your mind when you realized, as one of the judges, that that's what was going to happen, that Jonathan was going to win everything?
So it's interesting because there's so many painters that I just recognize. Like I'm like, I can walk up to a case and be like, well, that's a Krill Knev. Like, obviously, look at it. Like, how could it not be? He demonstrated across 3 different miniatures, 3 different feeling paint styles almost. I mean, they were similar, and you could tell under closer scrutiny, but he just did something different. So I actually didn't know when we picked the winners, because I blind picked the winners. Like, all the judges had no idea who, we didn't have the names of these people. We just look at the piece of art, and we chose, so the judges this year was Elizabeth Beckley.
Right.
Fantastic painter, award-winning miniature painter. Does some studio painting for us here at AMG.
Teaches classes.
Fantastic human being. And we also had Ben Comets, once again, like, very recognizable painter, multiple award winner, does classes.
Yeah, he's got a lot of experience in competition painting.
Super experienced in competition painting and judging. So it was a total pleasure working with both them. We had no idea who the names on these entries were. We just judged them based on our experience, judged them based on art. And when you came over and you're like, Tony was like, is this okay? And I think you were like, is this okay? And I was like, are you sure? Did we really do that? Like, that was my first thought. Did we really do that? Did we really, like, are those really the same? Are those really the same guy? And we went and looked, and it's like, lo and behold, and I was like, look, that is rare, but not unheard of. So, you know, you just pushing the bar for everybody else. What else do we want to talk about? What we
For
got?
example,
Oh, my example. Do we have a picture of it? Up there.
Okay.
Not, you don't.
Not here. We don't
Okay.
have one.
So this was my sample lead up to the Worthy, and we may be doing this. How much do you want me to say?
What was the
You can say.
what was the purpose of making it in the first place? Why did you make it?
So I think the purpose of making it was really just an exploration of like helping people think about how to approach a painting competition if you hadn't approached painting competition, but also kind of like get you in like where my mind state was as a judge, right? Where am I coming from as a judge? And my goal was much like Jonathan's, is I wanted to create a piece that invited the viewer to move around the piece in 3 dimensions. I really love that Spider-Man sculpt. I really love Green Goblin. It tells a good story. So really thinking about the painted backdrop, like I said, is in vogue, but trying to change it and make it different and re-invite the people to think about 3-dimensionality of miniature art. So that's how I did the angled panels on the side, because that also allowed me to move Spidey and Spidey and Goblin around the edge a little and break the frame of the center.
Right.
I have a very narrow center, and I couldn't get them both there, right? I could have bought a new plinth. I didn't. I had the plinth I had.
I think your solution was good.
Sometimes a constraint leads to greater innovation.
Right.
If you just have an open box to do whatever you want, it doesn't force you to think, right? It's like when we were talking about terrain earlier in the terrain building. A problem makes you think about solutions. If you don't have to think about problems, you won't think about new solutions.
Right.
So I had this tiny base. I had to cobble together a rooftop out of parts and do a lot of sculpting. And then really breaking those panels and then being like, oh, and then the smoke trail goes all the way around. And then it was like, now it's comic book panels. I think there's a lot of flaws on this still. I think the smoke could be in a different position. I don't think it quite does everything I thought it was going to do. I think the black lines should have been tighter. I think the lettering should have been a little tighter. I'm not the best letterer in general, and I've always said it's better to leave something off than to do something bad. And I probably should have printed the letters. I probably should have printed them out and done some sort of adhesive, and it would have made the piece better. I should have done the speed lines behind Goblin much better. I think they could just be better. And the blue background, although once again, this is the second piece in the case that grabbed your attention when you walked in, right? Mm-hmm. That blue background just screamed across like Jason's and this one. It's a little plain in retrospect. Like, I don't think it needs much, but I think it needs something. I would have judged it much harshly. I would have judged it much harshly than what I allowed myself to do.
Right.
So once again, it's that growth and that experience and thinking about, like, you know, And it's much easier to do when you're doing your own thing and doing it in retrospect, kind of getting some space between you and it, right? You're putting all your heart and your love into it, and then you come to Adepticon. Dallas is just like, well, did you ever really think about contrast? Like, have you ever thought about what a dark line is? And you're just like, I put my heart and soul into it. And you take like 6 months, and you're like, you know what? Dallas was maybe right about.
Yeah, time is key. If you enter a competition, you get feedback. However you did, take your reaction, sit with it for a few months before, and then stop and think like, all right, now I'm going to go back. I'm going to relive that feedback. I'm going to relook at my piece and just see how that feels now. Because once you get outside of it, your perspective on what you did and what you're looking at will change.
Happens
every time.
Marco was talking about it earlier in the thing. Right? It was just like, Marco's like, I'm halfway through the project and I already think it's the worst thing ever, right? Like Marco is like, projects are DOA in that man's heart. Like he is just like, nope, we could have done better, right? And some people need more time. We're all our own worst critics. But we are going to do more of these sort of, what do we end up naming them? Gallery entries. We're calling them gallery entries. Our judges, do you want to do it all? And it's both.
Is it?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Elizabeth.
Have some fun.
I'm going. You know what? I'm going to shake it up. I'm just going to say stuff. Elizabeth and Ben are both back for next year's Adepticon to judge again, and that's super exciting. And they both may be doing a gallery entry, so you can follow along and see what our judges are up to and what they would do for the worthy and where their brain is at. Because let me tell you, knowing where the judge's brain is,
that's good information.
Is real good information, let me tell you. It's super cool. And I said super cool, and then I look up. Seeker says it's super cool. It is super cool. It just gives a little insight and a little inspiration, hopefully. Hopefully the big thing is inspiration and that drive. We're all doing a project. We're all in a world together. We're all on the same path, just at different points.
That's right.
And, sometimes you just need to see that. You just need to see a guiding light to follow, So hopefully we can provide that. Yep. That's all I got, Ann.
All right.
Close it down.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
So hopefully, okay, let's do a real outro. I don't know.
Get out of here. Go.
I'm just the worst at just putting people on the spot. Oh, Seeker says Ann should do a gallery entry. So hopefully that inspired you, or get you going. Get you going. You got to Adepticon 2024, which is coming up in March.
Get started now.
You should be started already. Let me tell you. At least be thinking about stuff. Think about your path. Think about where you're at in your path, and think about where you want to be in your path. And then let's make some cool art, and let's start that journey together, and let's all get to the place we want to be. That's our goal.
Do it. We want to see it.
Yeah, we want to see it. So we'll see you at Adepticon, and we'll see you in a few minutes. Mr. Will Schick painting up some miniatures, mini extravaganza, the last stream of the day, coming up right now. Bye.